Well, now let's turn to another build along by a different modeler, Darryl Jacobs, who is the owner of the company Interaction Hobbies, who makes this kit. And I think you're going to really enjoy it. The first section that Darryl did really, I thought was fascinating. And I learned some things that I hadn't thought about before because of the way that he built the model in the first section. So, Darryl, welcome back.
Hi, guys, and thanks, Jim. And I'm glad you're easily amused by me. So that's great. Oh, sorry. Oh, crap. That was the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Let's share the right screen again. And share that. And bring this up. There we go. That's better, isn't it? Hope the sounds woke you up. So this is chapter 3 for the build along of Keeger's Garage and Repair. Tonight we're going to be talking about the foundation, the garage windows, and the transom above it. Assembling the walls, fixing potential problems, and I'm going to say I deliberately put some problems into it to help to see what we can fix, and dealing with corner trim, and then a little bit about interior details and interior walls. So the foundation on this kit is 2 pieces. They're layered together. So the main building has a doubler inside that helps with alignment of the walls and keeps everything nice and straight and square that you can work to. The trick with doing this is make sure it's centered on the top and bottom and left and right edges of the engraving on the lower panel. You'll see a little bit of an overlap here, and that's because this kind of shows that there's spacing depending if your trim is a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller than 1/8. So we allow for a little bit of alignment there. So then you go ahead and paint your foundation. So add a little bit extra detail here. You're not going to see very much, but if you want to, you can go in and engrave some lines in the floor. What this will do is it allows you to put a little bit of texture in the building that you might see through a door or a window opening. I went ahead and painted this and then dry brushed it with some dark brown and light brown. The garage windows are kind of a different type. These get layered together, much like you saw in the last episode of all the other windows. They're just slightly different because they have this spacer block around them at the top, so it gives you a flush style inset window with no window frame around it. So just kind of make sure your layering is very accurate as you're putting that together. The garage transom is a little bit of a delicate piece to put together. The reinforcement in there, I typically say use 1/8 and trim it back. You could use a 1/16 piece of strip stock to add some strength to it. But I find cutting it out is a little bit easier and gives you a little bit more strength at it. So you just got to make sure that the transom, the edge of this transom fits in tight against the edge of this so that the other ends will fit into the wall of the building well. And here you can see how that goes into the side of the building. And this little transom bit is tight against the wall. Based on the variance of thicknesses of wood, we like to keep a nice tight fit. So I just tell people trim off the top bit of the clapboard before you slide that in place to make sure it fits in nice and tight. Otherwise, you might have some problems fitting it into this laser cutout on the building side. So the wall assembly itself starts with the front wall. I find the front wall is easiest to put in first, and then apply some glue along this side and along the bottom. Get things lined up so they're nice and square and tight along this edge. Once that sets up, it's pretty much put in the back wall. Make sure it's clamped and tight and glued in place. And then here's what I was talking about. As I came to put the front corner trim in, or the front left right hand, sorry, I guess it'd be the front left hand side of the building. edge together. I couldn't get it to fit up tight. And what I had done is inadvertently glued my, which happens, I think, quite a bit, glued my reinforcement in a little bit too tight into that corner. So that was a relatively easy fix to go in and just kind of scrape away some of the surface, just a very small amount. And there you can see the wall fits in nice and tight now instead of the way this would happen. So I really encourage people to dry fit everything that they always put together. Sometimes we get carried away, put the glue in, put it together, and then go, oh crap, I should have had a dry fit ahead of time. Same on the back corner. Where this back corner of the wall comes together, I used a clamp on the top because it was difficult to get a clamp at the bottom. And for this build, I was hustling along a little too fast. And what happened is the bottom corner of the building kicked out a little bit. So where this is nice to not put your trim in, like I said in the last episode, during the assembly of the walls themselves, wait until you assemble the building. So what I did here is, this is the only piece that'll be shown in the center here, because there's another wall section that comes in here. So I made sure everything lined up tight with that. I do have a gap on the side, but you won't see that because now you put in a next wall assembly next to it, and you won't see it from the inside anyway. So carrying on, gluing the rest of the walls around, pretty straightforward. I also mentioned in the top corner here where these corner trims line up, or sorry, the corners of the walls line up. Make sure you have them fairly square at the top and bottom. And then I usually just apply a little bit extra glue in the top just to make sure you reinforce that corner. So when everything sets up, it's sitting nice and tight. And again, here you see this misalignment that I put in deliberately. This is again showing that if you had done this with the corner trim ahead of time, it would have been really showing how bad that alignment was out on the bottom of it. But by putting the trim in afterwards, you can adjust and sand a little bit and make sure everything fits tight. And it kind of fixes your mix-ups along the way. So for tight-fitting corner trim, what I like to do is chase back the one corner of the trim so that if there's any little bit of glue squeeze out or something left in the corner, your trim nestles down nice and tight, because that's probably where the likelihood of having something that's not going to fit a tight corner is going to happen. So just trim away a little bit of that one edge of the wood that's not going to be shown, put some glue down that center strip and stuff it back in place. Trimming the trim. So as you guys probably know, I really like those little Tamiya nippers because of that low cutting edge. It does a pretty nice job of not having any squeezing of the wood as you're trimming it. Good way to do this is you can line your cutter up on the slope of the roof and then nip off your tip of the trim at the correct angle. So now that you got the building together, you can decide if you're going to put a interior in it or not. We include a basic interior in the front office area of it, just to give you a sense that you can see through the windows. The back end of the office could be a small residence or office area in the back, and the garage, you could decide what you want to do inside of that as well. So what we include in it is the idea of just giving some simple visuals. A lot of our kits, we put full interior details and 3D printed parts. This particular kit allows you to get a similar sense of what's going on, because there's small windows, but because if it's lit, you're going to see what's going on inside. So just to give it a sense of livelihood and something going on in it, you take the graphic, cut it out, glue it onto the laser cut interior wall. And then again, simple visuals. We supply some graphics that can help you add some window blocking in there so you can see what's going on and kind of give a sense that it's an automotive shop. If you wanted to make this a confectionery, you could have it with confectionery cakes and things inside as well. So they're just paper graphics. There's some doubled up laser cut pieces that build the plinths that everything sits on. Glue those graphics on top, and add a few little parts here. I've also taken a few scraps of things that I had kicking around. These were the ovals that were from the foundation cutout, and just some aluminum tubing that I had kicking around. So once you put them inside the building, you just glue those corner pieces, those corner plinths in place, like up against tight. And from the outside, you get a pretty convincing sense of livelihood and life going on inside the building. So you don't have to add a lot, but just add a little bit. Instead of just a flat picture, it really does help bring depth to the and life to the building. So then the interior wall, we set the wall so that it could be up to an inch to 1.5 inches back. Here you can see I'm pushing the placement back to about 1.5 inches, but because of the slope of the roof, then you need to make sure your roof gets cut off at the trimmed at the right level so that your roof fits on better. And make sure it's flush to the top of the roof, because that also helps support your roof and keeps it from warping after assembly as well. There's a small notch that I recommend if you are going to put the lighting kit in. Just put a small notch in there so that you can pass your wiring and your LED strip that we'll be talking about in the next chapter through that. And then you put the walls together. So that's rather quick. That's the wrap up for chapter 3 of trying to make a convincing interior and a realistic interior on the building. So I hope you guys learned a couple of things from this. And if you've got any questions, I'm happy to hear from you. So.
That's really going to be a beautiful structure when you get it finished.
Thanks, Jim. It's a fun little build for sure. So
it seems like it's pretty correctable too. Whatever you make a mistake at, it's not that difficult to correct, and I think that's great.
Yeah, and doing that as self-alignment, like I say, I used to recommend a lot of times putting the trim on ahead of time, like I said, on the wall assemblies, but lately I've been recommending do it after the fact. We try to keep everything as accurate as possible on our laser cutting and tight, but sometimes that doesn't happen during assembly. So trying to put some error fix into the kit is a good idea as well.
Absolutely, and I like the idea of the test fitting. I don't think enough of us do that enough, and I agree with you 100%. It saves you an awful lot of headaches.
Yeah, even if the parts are perfect, you still come back. There's little glue squeeze outs and something didn't get aligned right, and then the edge of glazing sticking out over the edge of a window or something, and it just frustrates the heck out of you when you go to put it together.
Absolutely. Well, Darryl, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Great. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.